We as young people are creative individuals. We are so imaginative. We have
And now the full details. In a determined effort to offer Nigerians an effective option to petrol, the federal government will focus on developing compressed natural gas, otherwise known as autogas, which is priced significantly lower than PMS. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo stated this during a virtual interactive session hosted by the Africa Report magazine. Answering questions regarding the removal of petroleum subsidy, the Vice President said the country has experienced a severe downturn in its finances over the years, and at 60% less revenue, sustaining fuel subsidy is practically impossible. Under the Nigeria Economic Sustainability Plan, the federal government's objective is to promote domestic use of compressed natural gas and support the creation of 1 million jobs. On increments in taxes, the Vice President noted that the administration has no plans of increasing taxes, stating that this is hardly the time to raise taxes. Addressing concerns raised about electricity tariffs, the Vice President said the era of subsidizing petrol and electricity was over, noting that government has adopted measures of addressing the situation. Laolu Akonde, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity in the Office of the Vice President, in a release stated that the Vice President added that the overall target of government in the Economic Sustainability Plan is to save existing jobs and revamp businesses by improving the spending capability of Nigerians through the various initiatives in industry, agriculture, mass housing, and the solar connectivity projects. And on to environmental matters, Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Amina Mohammed, has challenged youths to take action that will ensure unique success stories about saving the planet and come up with ideas that will propel Africa into a major global player. This was her message to participants on Solution 17, tagged Art for Climate Change, on the sidelines of the United Nations 75th General Assembly. Adebola Brooklyn Sunday reports.
Climate change is no doubt a major challenge, which experts say is facing the world even more quickly than expected. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals has necessitated the launch of Solution 17, a model developed by Creative Youth Community Development Initiative for driving SDGs to profile solutions to the world's most pressing problems, especially climate change. The United Nations Deputy Scribe says the world is currently in a critical juncture as it is experiencing the dreaded COVID-19 pandemic and climate crisis, which pose significant challenges to the next generation.
Challenge your peers to contribute their ideas and help us move beyond fossil fuels into an era of solar power and green energy. Climate change can be the issue that brings humanity together during this unprecedented time.
She described art as a critical tool for climate action, which everybody must use to turn the crisis into opportunities.
You and your visions are our inspiration to do them more urgently, leaving no one behind. The UN is committed to give you the platform to raise your voices and support the realizations of your aspirations.
The 8th Secretary General of the United Nations, Ban Ki-moon, Joaquin Velasquez-Boston, Chairman NTREP, and Professor Akan Bassi, Acting Vice Chancellor, Covenant University, are among speakers who also made contributions towards solving the climate crisis. The 5th Global NTREPS Award and 5G Citizens International Congress, which began at the 75th General Assembly of the United Nations, will run till 31st of January 2021. Adebola Brooklyn Sunday, NTA News.
In the meantime, 28 Nigerians from various fields of endeavor are to drive the Economic, Social and Cultural Council of the African Union Standing Committee. Adebola Brooklyn Sunday again reports that the committee has 10 clusters.
Making the African Union people-oriented, heads of state and government at the 3rd Ordinary Session of the Assembly in 2004 adopted the Sectorial Cluster Committee.
For the interest of the people.
It is in a bid to domesticate the adoption in Nigeria that these 20 personalities were made the heads and deputies of the national standing committees of the clusters and 8 advisors. They are to serve as key operational mechanism of ECOSOC to formulate opinions and programs of the African Union by forging strong partnership between government and civil society organizations.
At the time that the government needs your money is now, there are a lot of issues that need, depending on our solutions, and the solutions is in our hands.
A Sunupian chairman, Niger State Traditional Council, His Royal Highness Alhaji Yaya Abubakar, told the committee that their appointment is an opportunity to serve the continent.
Since 1963, we used to hear deliberations, discussion, decisions, but to come down to the grassroots is always the problem. Now is the right time, the right moment for these committees.
We have been able to pick castor farming, and we have selected 3 states as a pilot state.
To bring down the opportunities down to the ordinary person at the community level.
The committees are expected to constantly review policies and programs as well as provide advisory opinion as the case may be. Adebola, Brookslyn Sunday, NTA News.
Now, attaining the 2020 target of ending HIV/AIDS in Nigeria is a journey not too far, with the presentation of the final reports of the Nigeria AIDS Indicator Impact Survey to the federal government. The exercise marks a turning point in the country's HIV/AIDS response strategy and a global landmark in the history of AIDS response in the country. Basi Ita Ikman reports that the survey was financed by the United States government.
Accurate data on the number of people living with HIV in Nigeria has been a major challenge in HIV interventions in the country. Previous operations and interventions at ascertaining figures were done by estimates, making it difficult to achieve the 2020 target of ending HIV and AIDS by 2030. The Nigeria AIDS Indicator and Impact Survey marks a strategic mapped-out route to end the epidemic in the country.
This survey, for the first time, gave us the most reliable estimate we could have of the national HIV prevalence and even incidence.
These results have enabled the government and its partners to focus on providing services to the areas with the greatest need to control the HIV epidemic.
Director General of the National Agency for the Control of AIDS, NACA, led the University of Maryland team at the time of the survey, described it as the best thing that has happened to Nigeria in HIV and AIDS interventions.
I want to assure stakeholders that the government of Nigeria's pledge of placing 100,000 on treatment by the year 2020 is on track. NACA will do everything possible to ensure that promise is fulfilled.
Other partners, while commending Nigeria on the feat, said the NIAS report is an important reference document expected to inform policy decisions, programs and funding in the country. Basi Taipan, NTA News.
And towards reducing the hazardous effects of municipal solid waste on human health and the environment, the federal government has built and handed over a scrap metal recovery and recycling plant to the Rivers State government. Handing over the project, the Minister of Environment, Muhammad Abubakar, accompanied by the Minister of State, Sharon Ikeazo, advised Nigerians to reduce the use of plastics in the country. Robinson Deratede reports.
The Scrap Metal Recovery and Recycling Project is part of the federal government's Waste to Wealth intervention scheme designed to assist states to manage solid waste in an environmentally friendly manner and create job opportunities for the youth.
Scrap metals and plastics are no longer considered waste, but as resources which can be effectively recycled and converted into useful materials for manufacturing. The plant, established in Ingbitawan community by the Federal Ministry of Environment, has the components of share baler, sorting bay, among other machines, to compress the metals before transporting to other places for final recycling.
Before now, they will have to take their scrap metal to another state. So also we see that this state now is another source of income for the state and the people of the state. So this is a multifaceted benefit for everyone.
Reducing usage of plastics or metal protect our environment, save you money. Reusing it even saves you money. Recycling creates money.
Rivers State Governor, represented by the Commissioner for Environment, Egbik Stamuno, commended the federal government, noting that the project will add value to the state economy.
Projects such as this will help us in no small measure in managing the environment. And of course, in that wise, will also provide jobs for our people.
The ministers also inspected ongoing swamp reclamation project at Ogbogoro community. Robinson Deratede, NTA News.
In other news, the federal government has received the draft community-driven development policy documents in furtherance of plans to alleviate poverty in the country. Victor Azu reports that the objective of the policy is to sustainably increase access of poor people to social and natural resource infrastructure services.
Such was the success story of the Parent Community and Social Development Project CSDP 2009 to 2013 that the federal government of Nigeria sought assistance from the World Bank towards implementation of CSDP additional financing. Now assisted by the World Bank and co-financed by the federal government alongside the participating 29 states plus the FCT, the project aims at improving empowerment, service delivery and local governance. This gathering of CSOs, state project managers and other relevant professionals who make up the Federal Project Support Unit has now put finishing touches to the draft policy document here presented.
Even this CDD policy document is adopted by the government, all level of the government in this country. I want to assure you the level of poverty in this country will drastically reduce in the next 5 years.
We are very honored to be given this opportunity to contribute to Mr. President's agenda of lifting 100 million poor Nigerians out of poverty over the next 10 years.
The Presidential Assistant on Social Investment, who sits in for the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, promises to do more than deliver the document.
All our problems actually have to be tackled from that level. And so long as we don't get it right, whatever we do at other levels is definitely going to be a big challenge.
With this in motion, the question on the lips of Nigerians must be, how soon can its impact become felt if adopted? In Abuja, Victor Azu, NTA News.
Now, the federal government has again reassured Nigerians that the full deregulation of the petroleum sector and the service-based electricity tariff adjustment will, in the long run, benefit the ordinary citizen. The reassurance was the high points of an interactive session by the Information Culture Minister Lai Mohammed and online publishers in Lagos. More on this from Anthony Forson.
The truth is that the government can no longer afford the cost of subsidy.
Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed explaining to the online publishers the federal government's reason for the price hike on fuel. The minister said, under the prevailing circumstance, the federal government cannot sustain the payment of subsidy, having spent over 10 trillion naira to subsidize the product between 2006 and 2019.
The drastic fall in the revenues of the government explains why the government had to take certain tough decisions, even as it is acting to mitigate the effect of the economic slowdown by adopting an economic sustainability plan.
Lai Mohammed maintained that with the drop in oil price and losing 60% of its revenue, Nigeria is striving to ensure that alternatives to PMS is available and at more cheaper rate. Worthy of note is the coming on stream of modular refineries in the country, which will help lower the cost of petroleum products. However, he pointed out that despite the deregulation, PMS is still cheaper in Nigeria than neighboring countries and indeed the entire West and Central African sub-regions. On electricity tariff, the minister acknowledged that the privatization of the sector gave room for the increase pointing out that the federal government cannot again continue to bear the burden of distribution companies after spending over 1.7 trillion naira by way of supplementing tariff shortfalls.
The government does not have the resources to continue along this path. To borrow just to subsidize generation and distribution, which are both privatized, would be grossly irresponsible.
He explained that tariff adjustment will be hinged on the capacity of the distribution company to guarantee a minimum of 12 hours of electricity, while estimated billing is under watch with strict instructions for mass metering. There are plans also by the federal government to provide 5 million Nigerian households with solar power in the next 12 months, a project that will create 250,000 jobs and will impact 25 million beneficiaries. Here again, he noted that Nigeria's electricity cost in naira is by far the cheapest when compared to other African countries. In Lagos, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
You are watching the news on NTA International. We'll take a quick break now. Do stay with us. We'll be back right after this. Thanks for remaining with NTA International. Now, the Minister of Mines and Steel Development, Olamilekan Adegbite, says the downstream policy being proposed as a law for the mining sector in the country will put more of the mineral resources in the hands of Nigerians for value addition and employment generation. The minister disclosed this at a media parley in Abuja during his first official visit to the state.
Diversification of the nation's economy from oil and gas sector is the new policy direction of the federal government. The Minister of Mines and Steel Development, architect Olamilekan Adegbite, who is leading the campaign, has been drawing attention to other sectors, especially the mining sector, which Nigerians believe has been neglected in the last few decades. Effort to change the narrative is already ongoing in the international community, but it is essential to also get the buy-in of stakeholders at the local level. At a media parley in Abuja, the Ogun State capital, the minister said a downstream policy that encourages local mining and processing of mineral resources is underway, with value addition, job creation and revenue earning as the main target.
We need to also sensitize our people, Nigerians, to the possibility in mining.
He also disclosed that a program, Train the Trainer, to facilitate local participation in line with international standard, will train 45 Nigerians drawn from 36 states of the Federation.
They will be the ones who will go back to the states. We will provide equipment for them, training materials, now train people in the states on how to make jewelry. They will design it.
As one of the states with huge mineral resources in the country, Ogun State has an active mining industry with limestone, granite stone, clay and bitumen mined and used in commercial quantity. In Abeokuta, Adeni Taiwo, NTA News.
World Health Organization calls for concerted action to curb the coronavirus pandemic as fatalities near 1 million. Here's Uche Ogochukwu with an update on the global health crisis.
As the spread of the coronavirus in the UK surges, more than a quarter of the population is set to be under lockdown rules as new measures come into force this weekend. Households in parts of England will be banned from meeting in each other's homes or gardens. Meanwhile, government figures show that the daily number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in the UK have reached a record high of 6,874. The World Health Organization has warned that the global coronavirus death toll could hit 2 million before an effective vaccine is widely used. Head of WHO's Emergencies Program, Dr. Mike Ryan, said the figure could be higher without concerted international action. Almost 1 million people have died of COVID-19 worldwide since emergence of the disease. As at 6 p.m. local time, the total number of infections recorded by Johns Hopkins University Coronavirus Resource Center is 32,843,650, from which 24,215,577 patients have been treated and discharged. And from the global figure, the African continent accounts for 1,453,078 positive cases and 34,916 fatalities. In Nigeria, Lagos and Plateau states topped the ladder from the 213 new cases confirmed by the country's Center for Disease Control, bringing the total figure to 58,062, and the one new death moves the fatality toll to 1,103. That's it from here. I am Uche Ugochukwu.
Thank you, Uche, for that global update. Now, the federal government is poised to boost commercialization of research products from the Ministry of Science and Technology in a bid to make the nation self-reliant. Minister of Science and Technology, Dr. Ogbonnaya Onus, confirmed this during the inauguration of the Technical Committee for Commercialization of Research Products of the Ministry in Abuja, emphasizing that the benefits of research could only be realized if they are fully commercialized. Dr. Onu said the ministry will partner with the organized private sector in this regard. He added that the ministry is crucial to the realization of President Buhari's noble goal to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in the next 10 years.
So commercialization is key, very important, in making sure that we become a self-reliant nation, that we reduce the importation of goods and services from other countries, that we also become an exporting nation, that we can produce enough to meet our needs and then export the surplus to other nations. In doing this, we'll be creating lots of jobs. We will be creating wealth both for individuals and for the nation. And this is how many Nigerians will be lifted out of poverty.
Chairman of the Committee and Director General of the National Center for Technology Management, Professor Okechukwu Ukwuoma, said that commercialization of scientific research is key to the country's developmental aspirations. He stressed that the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations are hinged on technological innovations, and so it is important that Nigeria leverages on this in its desire for economic self-reliance. He assured that the committee will leave no stone unturned to achieve its mandate. All right, to other news now, and the Chinese illegal gold mining company in Kutasa community of the FCT has been sealed off by the National Environmental Standards and Regulations Environment Agency, NESREA, for non-compliance with environmental regulations. Let's get more on this from Mia Ugidi.
Journey to the assignment venue was more stressful than the assignment. Finally, we are at the venue. But how heavy-duty machines were taken through this near-impassable road to the mining site is what my brain is still working on. Only one stream flows through Kutasa village, but the mercury and lead poison from the mining site contaminate the water.
This is how the water used to do us.
Okay,
this one. Yeah. Wow. So that is why we stop people drinking the water.
A borehole is provided, but it is just mere cosmetics.
Two of them are not working.
The Chinese were not on site, but two Nigerians on ground, and they came to the defense.
As soon as you guys go, we'll break here.
The team was not deterred, so the facility sealed off. Few minutes of the team's departure, the seals destroyed, but the villagers informed the team, so a U-turn was made and the resistant staff arrested to be a guest in the police cell.
Going to prosecute them because they will be prosecuted for destroying government property.
For Nezra, such exercises will be on routine basis. Mayor Ogede, NTA News.
Newly appointed national football team coaches promise podium finish in international tournaments. Olumide Eguntola is our guide on Sports Update.
The newly appointed coaches for the country's 8th grade national teams assured football-loving Nigerians that with enabling environment, the game of football